What's up? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel, Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, YouTube's #1 couch detective. I'm in for the news. And here today, I'm going to be going over several news clips, starting out with the Drake and Rick Ross fiasco, where Rick Ross and his team was attacked in Vancouver, Canada. And Vancouver is on the west coast of Canada. Toronto is on the east coast of Canada. Some people are saying Drake had nothing to do with this, but there's a connection. The man who punched Rick Ross in the face is also part of the Hells Angels. Who else has a connection to the Hells Angels? That will be one Drake / Aubrey Graham. Aubrey Graham has been known to have a fascination with the Hells Angels and the Canadian chapter of the Hells Angels, which is a white supremacist organization. There's no doubt about that. I spent half my life in California where the Hells Angels originated at, and there's no doubt about it. They are a racist motorcycle gang. That's a fact. Nobody can deny that. For him to have that connection with those people it's a little strange, but I guess understandable because he's not like us. As the songs say, they not like us. But some people say it's a complete random act. Some people say Drake has something to do with it. Where do I stand on it? I stand that Drake has something to do with that. But that's alleged. There's no doubt about that. But what make this whole thing make Drake look like he's most definitely involved is he liked the post of this man being beat up. And, you know, did Rick Ross get beat out? I mean, stumped out and beat up? No, he got punched, but he stood on his feet. He didn't get knocked out or dropped. It didn't look like the man hit him, flush or nothing like that. So, from Rick Ross' standpoint, he couldn't afford to take an ass whoop. He was like, just get in there. It's hard when it's dark and at nighttime you don't know who the enemies is just to rush in there and start swinging and fighting. That's a difficult situation for somebody like Rick Ross when you're in enemy territory. Now, should Rick Ross have been playing Not Like Us in Canada? I don't know. That's up to you to decide. Depends on how big your nuts is. I wouldn't advise it, but, if Drake is also liking the violence and encouraging the violence, I like it from Drake because everything you do comes back to you. Drake, for a long time, has started to play gangster. We all know Drake is an actor. But he's been in this role for so long, it's become who he is. I don't think he can escape this role at this point in his mind. He's a 38-year-old man with Hello Kitty painted on his nails. He's going through a midlife crisis. That's plainly obvious. But let's take a look at this clip. And as you can see, the man punched Rick Ross, but didn't drop him. And you see the big security guard. Look, Rick Ross, he tried to get in there. He tried to get in there now. He tried to mix it up. But if you Rick Ross, as much shit as you talk on the internet, you can't afford to take a beating out there. There's just no doubt about that. He couldn't afford to take a beating in there. So, as you can see, he's in the mix. The security guard kind of big, sloppy, slow. What he did is he left the group. He went way too far into the group by himself. Now it's hard for Rick Ross. Rick Ross can't just run in there and start helping because you don't know who's who. Somebody come behind Rick Ross and knock him spark out. He'll never, that shit can finish his career in the black community. Unfortunately, even though I grew up, niggas, every nigga I know took a L. If you from Dallas, you done lost a fight now. You come from East Dallas, West Dallas, Oak Cliff, Pleasant Grove, you ain't whooped everybody now. Shit, you gonna take a L, so it's not that big of a deal. But in today's time with the internet and the memes and the Twitter and the Facebook and the goddamn YouTube and the TikToks, you just can't live it down no more, y'all. And as you can see, the security in the back is just standing there watching these things get their ass whooped. Hey, listen to me. Everything you do comes back to you. Now, we know Drake not like that. Drake is not a fighter. Drake ain't grew up kicking nobody's ass. He ain't did none of that. And when Puff Daddy almost slapped his jaw off, he did nothing. When T.I.'s buddy was at the movie theater and pissed on him, he ran out of there crying. So for him to encourage this shit I find it strange. But we don't have to keep going on. I'm pretty sure at this time everybody's seen this clip. But let's take a look at Drake. Drake celebrates Canada Day. sarcastically after the Rick Ross beat. Let's take a look at this.
Ain't never before. I took out a woman and you're the one I adore. Happy Canada Day. See, I'm about to say Happy Canada Day to everybody. Cheers, man.
And as you can see, I just want to pause it right there. As you can see, he has this man's so tone deaf. He's being criticized and talked about as a pedophile, but yet he paints a little girl's Hello Kitty on his fingernail. Like, what the drinking some kind of Catalina wine spritzer. I don't know what the fuck he's drinking. But what kind of 38-year-old man paints Hello Kitty on his nails? Look, I think Drake make great music. I have, but my partner, anybody who knows me will tell you, I ain't never really cut for this nigga like that. I ain't never felt like he's one of us or he's just that type of guy. I always felt strange about this nigga. And everything has come true over the years, who Drake is and what kind of person he really is. What kind of 38-year-old man paints Hello Kitty on his nails? That's some weird ass shit. That's why I say everything, I'm glad he liked the post. I'm glad he's indulging some gangster shit, because eventually you're going to get caught in a situation where everything you laugh at and everything that you play with, it's going to be your turn. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, gander, gander. And eventually Drake will have his gander moment. If you want to indulge in gangsterism, hanging with 21 Savage and all them Atlanta niggas and hanging with, some of them LA niggas and YG and all. I'm talking about the game. Just over the years, he have embraced that. He think that's who he is now. But I just want to pause that right there and just look what kind of nigga you dealing with at this point. This is a biracial milk and coffee Jewish young man who's raised up in a middle-class family in Canada. So, yeah, he's all over the place. This is the definition of a midlife crisis. There's no doubt about that. I don't know no niggas who put Hello Kitty on their nails unless you're a homosexual. I don't know. But enough of Drake and Rick Ross. Rick Ross put himself in a strange position, a tough position, where he had to fight his way out of a situation. Or at least not get knocked out. The bodyguard took all the blows. Good for Rick Ross. You pay niggas to get their ass whooped. Period, point blank. Drake, you liking posts. The man from Hell Angels. And at the end of the Family Matters video, you had Hell Angels in the video. Yeah, they've seen Drake in Hell Angels t-shirts. Like I said, once again, a white supremacist group. When it's your turn, ain't no crying, ain't no sympathy when the motherfuckers hop on your ass, because and they knocked the nigga out in there too. I think the DJ, they knocked him out. Like I said, that nigga might be down and everything's fun and games and laughs, but you don't know who his family is, who his people is, who he fuck with. Hey, them motherfuckers might be with the shit. They ain't the type of motherfuckers get knocked out. But we're gonna move on. And we will see how this plays out over time. But Drake will have his day where he actually gets to try to really be gangster. There's no doubt about that. That day is coming. Let's take a look at this clip. Well, we're going to go with this clip, and then we'll go back up to the clip. Biden under pressure from Democratic leaders. Now, I talked about this clip. Something that became plainly obvious with this debate is that the Democrats threw Joe Biden out in that debate to get rid of him. They want him to step down. There's no doubt about that. And he was a sacrificial lamb who was thrown out to the wolves. Yeah, he was an old, slow man, and they put a pork chop suit on him and told him to run through Yellowstone. Well, let's take a look at this clip. Fair use for all these clips. Fair use. Using these videos for educational purposes only.
The truth, I think, is that Biden is going to lose to Trump. I know that's difficult, but I think the damage has been done by that debate.
Washington Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez voiced concerns today about President Biden's chances of success in the upcoming election. She stopped short of calling on him to drop out of the race, but other Democratic leaders are applying pressure, suggesting that the president should step aside. Here's ABC's Rachel Scott.
Tonight, mounting pressure on President Biden from Democrats demanding answers about the president's mental fitness and raising questions about whether Biden should go on with his campaign. Today, the first Democratic member of Congress coming forward to say the president should drop out. Congressman Lloyd Doggett of Texas saying, quote, President Biden's first commitment has always been to our country, not himself. I am hopeful that he will make the painful and difficult decision to withdraw. Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse said he was horrified by Biden's performance in that debate.
I think people want to make sure that this is a campaign that's ready to go and win, that the president and his team are being candid with us about his condition, that this was a real anomaly and not just the way he is these days.
The Biden campaign has called concerned Democrats bedwetters. Today, Senator Peter Welch of Vermont said it was, quote, inappropriate to dismiss these concerns.
I think we have to have an honest assessment of where we are, with the objective being keeping Donald Trump out of office.
And let me say this. Donald Trump has a lead in blue states now, where Biden was up by 4, 5, 6, 7 points. He's now down by 3 or 4 points. Those type of swings almost never happen in blue states, where you go from being up in a Democratic state to down. Like, that almost never happens. I had a buddy who made a bet that whether Biden would drop out or he would lose. And I said this 100% at the debate. It's 100% he's going to drop out. He has no choice. They're going to force him out because his mental capacity at this point just to put together a complete sentence or to read lines or memorize just the bare minimum basics. He can't do it anymore. There's no doubt about that.
Serve the country, not the party.
And today, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called the questions about the president's fitness legitimate.
I think it's a legitimate question to say, is this an episode or is this a condition?
So
Hey, when you hear Nancy Pelosi, who's a staunch Democrat, a diehard Crip, when I say Crip because she believes in the blue, and she is 100% a liberal, say the person who's running for president that they might have to step down, believe you me, the panic is real. There's no doubt about that.
asked the White House. Pelosi said it's a legitimate question to ask if this is an episode or is this is a condition. Which one is it?
Well, what I can tell you is that he had a cold and a bad night.
And you know, body language is everything. And as you can see, look, it's one thing to lie to people if you can actually try to tell a convincing lie. It's a whole nother thing to lie to people knowing that they know that you're lying to them. When everybody knows that this is a lie, you know you about to tell a lie. It's very hard to tell that lie. And you see the way her body shifted. Look, watch her body language. Her body shifted. She said this man had a fucking cold. That's so ridiculous on so many levels. What kind of cold? Cancer cold? Because that's the only kind of cold he got. Brain tumor cold?
Which one is it?
Well, what I can tell you is that
Look.
he had a cold and a bad night. I would not see this as an episode. I would see this as what it was and what we believe it to be, which is it was a bad night.
Oh, it was bad, all right. It was terrible. She said on top of that, he had a cold. Yes, his brain is frozen. There's no doubt about that. So yes, he had a cold. A continuous cold that is not going to get any better.
The situation, that is the reality of what happened that night.
For many top Democrats, that's not enough. Sources tell ABC News a group of Democratic governors held a phone call expressing concern over the debate and the path forward.
Look, I don't think anybody sugarcoats this. I think the question is how does that impact how the country runs? How does it impact what an election looks like?
ABC News has learned Biden has yet to speak to top Democrats in Congress, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Today, one of his closest allies, Congressman Jim Clyburn, said Biden should stay in the race. But if he drops out, Democrats should rally around Vice President Kamala Harris.
I will support her if he were to step aside.
It comes as the new CNN poll shows that Harris performs better against Trump than Joe Biden does.
Well, all that sounds good, that Kamala Harris performs better, but she doesn't have a true base. Yes, she is a Democrat and she will get supported by the staunch, die-hard Democrats, but you have to get the casual Democrats. You have to, what they call moderates. You have to get the moderates. You have to get the moderate Democrats, and you have to get the moderate Republicans. 0% chance she gets either one of those. And on top of all that, she doesn't have the black vote because she's not black. When I say black, she's not a Negro. She's not an American Negro. She's not one of us. She's a Indian. She's Asian. Well, India is in Asia. So when I say Asia, I mean she's Indian. Her mom is Indian. I think her dad is like from Jamaica or somewhere, Caribbeans. But she most definitely is not one of us, and that's not what she claims. Only time she starts talking black is during election time. That's a fact. So, yeah. But let's take a look at this clip. It's a new national poll shows Harris performs better than Biden. Hey, man, a plucked duck right now can perform better than fucking Joe Biden at this particular moment in history. So what that says, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't say anything at all. But let's take a look at this clip.
The new national polling, what kind of insight does this give us? Is the race moving at all?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got 3 polls now, last 24 hours, all conducted after the debate. Just go through them here, and you can see a couple things. You're not seeing major shifts in these polls, but of course, in a race like this, it wouldn't take a major shift to be pretty decisive. CNN poll released this afternoon, Trump 49, Biden 43. Now, obviously, a 6-point lead for Trump. That's very eye-catching here. Keep in mind, though, last time CNN polled this race, this was back in April, some time ago, but the last time they polled this race, they also found 49-43. When they found this result back in April, that then was the biggest margin Trump was leading by in any poll at that time. A lot of other polls then were much closer. This was largely dismissed as an outlier poll. Now, could this one be too? We'll see as more polls come out in the coming days. One thing to keep in mind, when you get an outlier, often it's the result of sort of a statistical blip with your sampling. It can happen from time to time, but when that happens, you'd usually expect that the next poll wouldn't have the same problem, so it could...
But the thing is that they don't tell you. Well, sometimes they do talk about it. You have the external polls that we see, then you have internal polls. The internal polls are far more correct and more close to the actual percentages that you're looking at. The internal polls is going to really tell the truth. That's why you see the Democrats, you see all these Democratic politicians all the way up to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, even Barack Obama saying, hey, man, this man, he's got to drop out. Because the internal polls is telling them that they don't have a snowball's chance in hell.
This be 2 outliers, or is this perhaps more accurately measuring right now than back in April in the CNN poll? Because the other thing to keep in mind in the CNN poll is that question of Kamala Harris. They tested as well Harris against Biden. So again, you see Trump leading Biden, Harris against Trump, excuse me. You see Trump leading Biden 49-43. When you put Harris in this poll, that 6-point gap to the Democrats comes down to 2 points. So they have Harris doing better than Biden. They also, CNN did, it checked 3 other Democrats against Trump. None of them were beating Trump, but all of them were closer than Biden. 4 Democrats in total that CNN polled. So that's a little context for that 6-point margin in the Trump-Biden race in their poll. You mentioned it. This is the Suffolk USA Today poll. This, a national poll, also new today. Now, again, this poll, you see Trump with a 3-point advantage over Biden. Notice they included Kennedy. They included a number of other third-party candidates. It's why...
Do I believe they're going to put Kamala Harris in there? There's a chance. I think she probably got... I would say Kamala Harris has about a 40% chance of them picking her, but she doesn't have no base. She doesn't have any energy. Nobody's lined up. So, oh my God, Kamala's running. I can't wait to vote. Nobody cares about Kamala Harris. So, do I think she has a chance to be Joe Biden's replacement? Yes. And there's probably, I would say, 3 or 4 other candidates too. As you can see, Robert Kennedy Jr., and probably Greg, I think it's Greg Newsom out of California, and a couple of other people. But will Joe Biden be replaced? At this point, it's almost guaranteed.
These totals for Trump and Biden are a bit on the low end, which is generally speaking, but they have Trump ahead by 3 points in their new poll today. Again, entirely post-debate. Compared to their pre-debate poll, they had it tied. So they've gone from a tie to a 3-point edge for Donald Trump. And then you mentioned, we showed this yesterday just as it came out, this New Hampshire poll, Trump over Biden. Again, the context for this, taken entirely after the debate, is there had been 4 previous polls in New Hampshire since last December. Not been a ton of Biden-Trump polling, but there had been 4 before this. And those 4 polls showed Biden ahead by 3. They showed Biden ahead by 5, Biden ahead by 6, and Biden ahead by 10. This is the only poll that's come out.
And do you see how devastating that is? This is New Hampshire poll. You might say, well, Trump is not us, only up by 2 points. New Hampshire is a blue state. That's a Democratic state. To be up at one time by 10 and then you down by 2 after the goddamn debates, that is the drop off is amazing. It's the equivalent in football to being up 38-10, and then you look up, you down 38-42. You're like, what the fuck? What the hell happened? How do we get so far? How do we let them come back? And for him, there's really no comeback for Biden. After that debate, number one, you can't put him in another debate. That's dead. Number two, how do you reel that back in and try to garner back some support? You have to replace him. There's no doubt about it.
New Hampshire since December that has Trump ahead of the state, and it's entirely post-debate.
Okay, thank you, Steve, for breaking that down.
Thanks, sir. So it's going to be interesting to see. He most definitely has to withdraw. At this point, they'll sabotage him to get him out of there at this point. Don't be surprised if you don't see something about something Joe Biden did or done or some old clip, or all of a sudden when he called black people the N-words, all of a sudden they start painting this narrative to where he has to drop out. There's no doubt about it, because he's basically not getting any support at this particular time from the Democratic Party. And you can't win like that. It's impossible to win when your own party is not supporting you anymore. So let's take a look at this next clip. Worker arrested. Worker in Phoenix Children's Hospital arrested. Now, this man, obviously, in my opinion, comes from a family of incest. What happened to him, I have no idea. But he damn sure looked like the dude off the Goonies who said Baby Ruth. No doubt about that. I mean, my God. And I got a video coming soon on, this is a great video, because I cover the news, and I've covered so many news clips over the years. I have a video coming on white people's, American white people in general. I mean, directly talking about American white people's childhood, because nobody ever talks about white people's childhood. And it's not to denigrate, it's not to celebrate, it's not either or. It's just an honest fact of something that I've noticed on covering the news of white people's childhood and how they have all of these problems within their community. And a lot of it stems from childhood and how they're being raised. A lot of them are coming from very, very abusive backgrounds. Let's take a look at this next clip.
New at 6, a food service worker at Phoenix Children's Hospital has been arrested on child pornography charges. Officers took 29-year-old Zachary Albritton into custody yesterday at Sky Harbor Airport on 10 felony counts of sexual exploitation of a minor. They say he exchanged child porn images online. Detectives say that he told him his job was to deliver food to rooms at the hospital. They say he denied ever trying to take photos or videos of the children or have sexual contact with them. But police say Albritton acknowledged he has sexual fantasies about minors.
And there's no doubt whoever hired this man had to, because you can look at him and tell ain't something's wrong. There's no doubt about that. If you ask me, hey, do you think this motherfucker exchanged child pornography pictures? Hell yeah, I'd have said that immediately. And look, I'm not too far removed thinking the judge is too, with this chicken shit ass OK Corral ass mustache he got on. I don't trust him either. I don't trust neither one of these white boys. And like I said, it's not an excuse, but you just want to know why and how there's certain things get to a point. How do you get to a point in life to where you want to exchange child pornography? What happened to you to make you want to do that? Some people are just complete degenerates. Was raised right, everything was right, but they just, I don't know, chemical imbalance, I don't know what it is. But almost all come from abusive childhoods and backgrounds.
ordering that you be supervised by pretrial services in the community and that they install an electronic monitor on you prior to your release. And if you do post that bond, I'm also ordering that you may not have contact with any of the arresting officers, not to have contact with any minors. You're prohibited from accessing the internet through any electronic means except for work, school, or consulting with legal counsel.
Okay, I play video games. Is that still...
So I'm
He told your ugly ass you can't be online. You got to play single player games. Like him. He looked like the final boss on Sonic with that ugly ass mustache. He said, I play video games. Man, see, this is why in white society there's so much corruption when it comes to children. And because they treat each other softly, way too much in the justice system. They're way too easy on pedophiles because majority of pedophiles, I've covered these cases. I've seen the mass arrest of pedophiles in too many of these cases. In a lot of these cases, there's too many white boys in there. So they tend to soft shoe it. There are a lot of Mexicans, white boys. You have a nigga or two scattered in there and some Asians. But it's majority white boys all the time. Let's take a look at the, let me finish it up.
ordering that you may not access the internet through any electronic means. So as long as
What about a cell phone?
internet capable, that should be fine.
A judge set bond at $100,000. We reached out to Phoenix Children's, but they did not respond to our request for comment.
Of course they didn't. Hey, these things are going on all across the United States all the time. And just because his head looked like a melted Snicker bar, that ain't no excuse for him to be able to be sending child pornography pictures talking about, I never came onto no kid or took those. You know he didn't took the picture of a kid sleep, or the kid is in there. Because you know you wear them gowns with your ass out. You might have been then flipped over. So he done did some shit. There's no doubt about that. But you see how the judge is treating it. Oh, you just can't play any video games online. Ain't that about a bitch? Unbelievable. That's why I cover the news, because it'd be some wild shit going on. Let's take a look at this. 200 missing kids found a national operation. I've said this from the inception of my channel, that there's a national pedophile ring, and everybody at the top is in on it, allegedly 100%. Because we have the greatest intelligence apparatus known to mankind. How do they find, say you kidnapped a senator or a congressman, you did anything like that. How could they find you? Because they have satellites in the sky that's recording everything at all times, that can read a newspaper from low Earth orbit. And they can look down, see the car, see where it went. That's why they can find who they want to find when they want to find them. Believe you me, you commit a hideous enough crime or you do something that's completely out of bounds, they will 100% find you. So let's say they found 200 kids, over 1 million kids in America go missing every year. I think it's like 800,000. Are you telling me you can't find these kids? Yes, they can. They're choosing not to. Let's take a look at this clip.
Now at 5:30, hundreds of missing children have been found across the U.S.
It was part of a 6-week national operation by the U.S. Marshal Service. Fox 10's Lindsay Regas tells us how many of those children are from here in Arizona.
The U.S. Marshals targeted areas that had a high cluster of missing endangered children across the U.S. Both Pima and Maricopa counties were on the list.
There's a lot of people that take advantage of children, and unfortunately that was the case during this operation.
Operation We Will Find You 2 was conducted from May 20th to June 24th. The operation successfully recovered 123 children from dangerous situations. 77 missing children were located but found in safe living conditions. Ben Bayless with the U.S. Marshals District of Arizona.
What's safe living conditions? Were they molested? Were they abused? I mean, what's safe living conditions if they were found? Like, what I don't understand. Like, a lot of times the wording they use can be quite confusing at times. You know, there's no doubt. And then when these kids are abused, like, how do you can't just reintroduce them back into society. They need a lot of psychological help. That's why you see a lot of people on TV when they be at some of these pride parades and they be wacky. And they, what the fuck? Because they were so physically abused as kids and sexually abused, they never seeked any help, got any help. And now they have a coping mechanism. And the coping mechanism is some of the shit that you see them doing.
It says 57% were recovered or located within 7 days of the Marshal Service getting involved. In Arizona, 33 children were recovered and 16 children were located as safe. This includes a 16-year-old girl from Phoenix who was sex trafficked in several states before she was found.
We know that it's a 16-year-old female out of the Phoenix greater area that unfortunately looks like was trafficked in Los Angeles and then in Miami, and then she was recovered in Michigan. All of that was through the work efforts of the Marshal Service and our partner agencies following her from Michigan, Arizona, out to Los Angeles, down to Miami, and then in Michigan.
That case is still being investigated now. Of the 49 cases in Arizona, Van Bayless says 8 children were likely trafficked. Reporting in Phoenix, Lindsay Regis, Fox 10 News.
Hey, that case is way bigger. Well, cases like this in general are way bigger than what they're leading on. If you Google how many kids go missing in America every year, the number is astounding. Basically, a whole major city of kids go missing every single year. Where are all these kids going? What are they doing with these kids? Like, you know, it's a lot of questions to be answered. But obviously, they you know, like I said this before, within the government, whether it be the FBI, CIA, whatever, NSA, whatever it is, it's always good people in there. But a lot of them are what you would call handcuffed, or they're tied, their hands are tied. They only can go so far. They can only arrest so many people. They can only go so far before it gets too high and you start having to arrest people who are well known within government or entertainment or so on and so forth, billionaires and all that type of shit. So them people can only do so much. So the stuff they can do, they are trying to do it, and that is very, very commendable. Let's take a look at this. NFL faces $4.7 billion hit in Sunday ticket antitrust case. Now, let me say this. The NFL has been getting over for years, making you, by doing blackout games, making you pay for all the games just to watch one goddamn game. It's a hell of a scam, and I'm so glad they sued and won. And the NFL, even if they appeal and lose the appeal, I think it go from 4.7 billion to 10 billion or 9 billion or something like that. So I'm very happy with that. The NFL been getting over for years.
The NFL must pay more than $4.7 billion in class action damages for overcharging subscribers to its Sunday ticket telecasts. That was the verdict of a California federal jury on Thursday after a decade of litigation. Jurors agreed with plaintiffs who had argued that the league conspired to inflate the price of the service. They argued that the cost was deliberately raised to limit subscribers and prevent broadcasters like CBS and Fox from losing viewers for their free-to-air games. Sunday Ticket lets fans watch out-of-market games for an annual fee. Games that are out of market are not shown nationally, and fans may be unable to watch them where they live, often because of exclusivity rights. However, Sunday Ticket made them buy a bundle of games, even if they may only want to watch one. The case covers a period starting in 2011, when the service was run by DirecTV, a unit of AT&T. It now costs up to $449 per year under its new operator, Google's YouTube. Neither firm is a defendant in the case. The NFL said it was disappointed by the verdict and would definitely contest it. It called the case, quote, baseless and without merit. But things could get worse for the league operator. Under U.S. antitrust law, a judge could triple the damages, bringing the total hit to over $14 billion. The class action case covers some 2.4 million residential customers, as well as thousands of bars and restaurants that showed the games.
That's a good thing. I hope they appeal and lose more money. They've been getting over for years with them blackouts. Boy, they've been scheming and scamming. That's why I like the red zone. All I need is the red zone. I don't need all the rest of that shit. Cause yeah, they getting over. Let's take a look at this. Oklahoma schools to use Bibles again in school. I remember coming up as a kid, they was, you know, you still had a little bit of God in school. They said, I was hearing, they were saying, now they're going to take God out of school. It just sounds so far-fetched back then. And now they have taken God all the way out of school, and the more things change, the more they stay the same. Now they're trying to put Bibles back into the schoolhouse because obviously these kids, you have to have a base and a foundation of some kind of belief in something. If not, you'll be a lost soul. You'll find yourself completely empty if you don't believe in something. And a lot of kids now used to go to these schools. They don't have no belief system. It ain't being taught at home or at school. So let's take a look at this clip.
And news from across the Nation, Oklahoma schools are now required to incorporate the Bible into their classrooms and curriculum.
The announcement sparking backlash across the state. Dylan Brown tells us more.
Every school district will adhere to, which is that every teacher, every classroom in the state will have a Bible in the classroom and will be teaching from the Bible.
State School Superintendent Ryan Walter saying
Having a Bible at the school is cool. You know, I don't know about teaching the Bible because everybody can't teach the Bible. The Bible is a very complex book, and there's a lot of things that where you have to be able to have great discernment, and you have to be a person of God to get a true understanding, because you can read certain things without context. Say you read a passage out of the Bible. See, that's why you have to read the whole Bible through and through, because you can read one passage, and if you didn't go back 3 passages to understand what that last passage means, you could completely take things completely out of context with the Bible. You hear people all the time talk about that. They talk about, oh, the Bible, you can eat pork now and shellfish and all of that, and that's just not true. Not biblically, you can't. But people say that because in the Bible, they were having a debate about who can, should you eat meat or should you eat grain? You know, it was a vegetarian versus a meat eater. Like the Bible said, there's nothing new under the sun. So even back then, they would have these talks about what you should be eating. Should you eat meat or grain? But they were most definitely not talking about pork. They were talking about the meat they eat. Cows, lamb, sheep, that type of meat. They were not talking about pork and shellfish. But I'm going to keep the video going.
Immediately, all Oklahoma schools are required to incorporate the Bible as instructional support for curriculum in grades 5 through 12, with immediate and strict compliance expected.
The Bible is a necessary historical document.
That echoes Louisiana's recent move requiring the 10 Commandments be hung up in classrooms. That state now faces several lawsuits.
I'm okay with that.
Attorney General issued a statement suggesting Walters isn't breaking new ground, saying Oklahoma law already explicitly allows Bibles in the classroom and enables teachers to use them in instruction, rather than simply a resource for teachers. Walters' memo suggests it will be a requirement, and the State Department may supply teaching materials for the Bible. We asked A.J. Drummond if the Quran could also be used as a tool for teachers. He says yes, as a historical resource. Thursday's meeting, several spoke out.
How many commandments are there, Ashley? 613. Are you doing all of them? Or are you just doing your chosen 10?
I wanted to be able to come here and thank Superintendent Walters. Religious teachings like these don't belong here, you guys. They belong in churches. They belong in houses.
Americans United for Separation of Church and State calls Walters' mandate textbook Christian nationalism and promises to step in to protect Oklahoma families from constitutional violations. Walters' memo comes just weeks after the state Supreme Court confirmed local school boards have the final say to determine which books and instructional materials may be deemed appropriate in Oklahoma classrooms. That legal battle costs taxpayers, and more can be expected as Oklahoma's superintendent doubles down on religion in the classroom.
It is essentially...
If you hang the 10 Commandments, I don't mind that. This whole thing of teaching the Bible, that's very complex, because a lot of these teachers, they don't even know the Bible. How can they teach something they don't know? Sounds insane. But, you know, if you want to hang the 10 Commandments, or, you know, from time to time, people want to say a prayer, and if there's kids or parents who don't want their kids to be part of the prayer, that's fine too. But I don't know about just, you know, drowning the students in biblical prophecies. You know, and everybody's not of the Bible and for the Bible and that wasn't raised. That's not their religion. What if that's not your religion? I think you should be able to be excluded from that. You know, there have to be some kind of what you would call, you know, details in this whole thing. You can't just smash it down people's throat. Let's take a look at this. Rare white buffalo becomes sacred symbol for Sioux Nation. Let's take a look at this clip.
Unique story from Yellowstone National Park honoring the birth of a rare white bison earlier this month. The rare white American buffalo has become a sacred symbol to the men and women of the Sioux Nation, fulfilling an ancient prophecy. Oh, look how cute he is. The Lakota chiefs...
Let me say this about these Native Americans. The only white thing they need to be worried about is white supremacy that has their ass on these far-off reservations. Worrying about some funky-ass white buffalo is the reason why you in this position right now. You're too nice. Like the Hawaiian people, they too nice. and getting that goddamn head. The only people that can stand up to white people is the Negro. We the last semblance of hope. Everybody else folds up like cheap suits around here in America. They just fold up. Look, I'm not saying you're supposed to be confrontational with everything, but goddamn, the white man just run you over and all of a sudden you worshiping a white goddamn buffalo. That don't mean nothing. You need to try to be getting off these reservations. Damn that white buffalo.
Says the tribe believes a bison represents a spiritual rebirth in white, almost like a blank slate and the blessing of a new beginning. This is
If you want a blank slate, you have to tell white people enough is enough. Get it. We want off these reservations. We want new pieces of good land, not the land you just giving us. Well, let us pick some land. Yeah, I don't care nothing about this little white buffalo.
the first record of a white bison calf ever being spotted in Yellowstone. Its name is Wakandali, which means...
Wait a minute, I seen some $5 Indians in there. Some of these people want Indian. There's a lot of white people who play Indian. They got 2% Indian in it now to say they Indian. Let's take a look at this. Let me see. Watch this again.
A new beginning. This is the first record of a white bison calf ever being spotted in Yellowstone.
It was a couple, most definitely a couple of,
which means
most definitely a couple white $5 Indians. There's no doubt about that.
Of a white bison calf.
Yeah, a couple of these people. That lady down there is white for sure. Hell, all these people, let me say, a lot of the Indians, they true blood were way darker than they are now. We know that there were black Native Americans, even the ones who wasn't black, who was Mongoloid, what they would call Native Americans, they were way darker than this. Like the real original Aborigines of Australia. If you look at pictures of them, they are jet black. If you look at them now, they mulatto. So the same thing has happened to these people. Unfortunately. And now they out here worshiping white buffaloes. Boy, what about the black buffaloes? Them the ones you should be having. Them the ones that's everywhere. One little funky white buffalo, you just worshiping him.
Ever being spotted in Yellowstone. Its name is Wakandali, which means return sacred in Lakota.
Return, that ain't sacred to shit. Let's take a look at this. Former Bolivian general in custody following failed coup attempt. And a lot of times I talk about this on every coup that I've ever covered on this channel. A lot of time these coups are staged by the West. The West back these people militarily, financially. Sometimes the coups work, sometimes they don't. When they don't, the CIA or whoever else, whatever other black government group that's involved, when I say black, I don't mean person of color. I'm just saying like a dark group that's not on the books. Whatever group that's involved in that, they are most definitely going to throw their hands up and act like they don't know what's going on. But let's take a look at this small clip.
On the scene now to Bolivia, a former top general behind a failed coup attempt is in police custody. Yesterday, he led troops to take over the capital's central square. They eventually stormed the presidential palace, then quickly retreated. The general claims he acted on the president's instructions during his arrest. Later in a news conference, the Bolivian government told the public that they've regained total control over its military.
He said that the president told him to do that. Now, that's very interesting. Sometime within government, they stage events. Why do they stage events? Because maybe you're getting ready to get ousted. Or maybe you feel like a real coup is coming, so you stage a fake coup. You arrest people, you throw them in jail, you do this, that, and the third, you make things look a certain way, and it takes the heat off of you. It's like the American government. Like if something happens, say somebody get killed unjustly, a black person, they're out there rioting, they're out there marching and asking for the police to be such, they'll put agitators in the crowd to start riots to make it even worse so they can squash the riots and say, look at these people, such and such, and it can take the heat off of them. So a lot of times that happens too, but most of the time it's the West. But he said the president made him do it, which is very, very interesting. But let's take a look at this final clip of the day. Former Uvalde police officers indicted on charges related to that mass shooting at that elementary school. I covered this the day of that this happened. I got the video still on my channel. I said these guys were the biggest cowards I ever seen in my life. They waited 45 minutes to go in there with all these AR-15s against one frail, young, confused, looked like he was exchanging pictures of children. And they was terrified to go in there and get him. They let that man kill all them kids. Let's take a look at this clip.
There's something called consequences, accountability.
10 counts of abandoning or endangering a child are listed in the indictment for former Uvalde.
And as you can see, boy, you can go from hero to a zero real fast, can't you? I mean, you can go from the top to the bottom. Look at this little orange suit they got him in. Man, look like a jalapeno pumpkin. Unbelievable. Look at this one collar popped up on the side. They didn't even flip his collar right. He can't pop his collar no more. Look how they got him looking. My God.
CISD Police Chief Pete Arredondo. Each count names a child survivor, saying Arredondo, quote, by act and omission, intentionally, knowingly, recklessly, and with criminal negligence, place them in imminent danger of bodily injury, death, physical impairment, and mental impairment.
I think it's a really strong message, not just to the community of Uvalde, but any law enforcement officer, that you cannot hide behind immunity.
The indictment accuses Arredondo of failing to identify the incident as an active shooter, instead calling SWAT, which caused delays. It also claims he failed to follow the active shooter plan developed by the school district by not...
Hey, when you're in a small town like Uvalde and they had an active shooter plan, he probably never even read that shit. Seriously. He probably never read that. Active shooter say he didn't follow that shit. They give you this whole booklet and shit at work, and you like, you ain't read all that shit.
Establishing a command center and by prioritizing evacuation of students over stopping the shooter. It took 77 minutes for officers to enter
That was way too long.
a classroom and confront the shooter. Last month, families of the victims announced they had reached a $2 million settlement with the city and would be moving forward with lawsuits against the state and local officials.
These were the last lines of defense for these children. But they were failed long before the shooting.
In a statement shared with Fox 7, a Uvalde CISD spokesperson said, as with the rest of the Uvalde community, we have only just learned about the grand jury decision regarding 2 indictments being issued. We have no information separate from what is being reported by the media. As we have done and continue to do, we extend our sincerest sympathies to all who lost loved ones. Our hearts go out to everyone affected by this challenging situation. State Senator Roland Gutierrez, who represents Uvalde, released a statement in response calling for DPS to also be held accountable, saying in part, the top law enforcement...
Yeah, because there was other people who was there too. It wasn't just, it's amazing only 2 Mexicans with the... But Mexicans usually side with white folks, especially whether they're in prison, whether it's on the census. That's why most Latinos identify as white. So when these type of things happen, you can't cry racism. They're your white brethren who put you in jail.
Enforcement agency in the state of Texas must answer for grave errors in judgment and for lying every single day to the public about how the massacre unfolded. Fox 7 reached out to DPS for comment and has not heard back. Arredondo was booked into Uvalde County Jail Thursday and released on bond. Another former school...
Wait a damn minute. He was an officer too. Man, that man looked like he clearly worked for the cartel. What's wrong with the collars in that little county jail? Why one collar is always hiding? Why one collar look like a diving board and the other one is laying on his chest? But this man clearly looks like he works with the cartel in his spare time. Yeah, he's doing something else. Yeah, you gotta check everything with him, because whatever they said he did with this, he did way more than just this little case he got going. Tell the look on his face, he's up to no good.
District Police Officer Adrian Gonzalez has also been...
And he kind of looks like Speedy Gonzalez too. All he needs is a fucking sombrero.
...named in an indictment and turned himself in on Friday. He is facing 29 counts of abandoning or endangering a child.
I would hope that they take...
Goddamn. 29 counts. They gave him all the counts. Goddamn. I would be like, y'all can't spread this out a month. It was just me and him. That's it.
The high road, and that they take the accountability, and that they're honest and truthful, and that's the only thing that's going to bring healing to the families and to the community.
Hey, That's unbelievable. He took that. Listen to me. They took all the counts. There's way more people who could be held responsible within this. 77 minutes. That's way too long. They should have been in there within 10 minutes. Hey man, this man in here. Let's go get his ass. You ready? Hey, this is what we gonna do. We gonna have you guys on the outside. We come from the inside. I don't give a damn. We finna throw some what you call them flashbangs in that motherfucker. Hey, flashbang ain't gonna kill a kid. Might disorient him for a bit, but we finna throw some flashbangs in this bitch. We finna kill this bitch. But they didn't do it. They was chicken shit cowards like a lot of these people. And a lot of these officers not in great physical conditioning. And when you're not in great physical conditioning, it also make you very, very hesitant. Very slow, sluggish. You don't move right. You don't think right. Ain't nothing right. But these two guys, do I think they're going to be able to fully prosecute them on this? I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. But it was good they got arrested. There should have been more people arrested. There's no doubt about that. But I just want to go over these clips and kind of see what's going on around the nation. I appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been Sports Life and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, YouTube's #1 couch detective. I'm here for the news. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. I just took your ass. Indians should be worried about white supremacy and not white buffaloes ride. Peace.